You were born alone, not metaphorically, literally, and that isn't just a poetic phrase, it's a universal truth. You arrived in this world crying, taking your first breath as an individual, not part of a group, not carried by a community, not shielded by friends. From the very beginning, you were designed to stand alone, to survive, to grow, to evolve from the inside out. But as we grow older, we begin to rely too much on the outside world. Friends, family, opinions, approvals. We start believing that someone out there is responsible for how we feel, for what we become, for what we achieve. That illusion is the beginning of spiritual paralysis. The idea that someone will always be there, that someone will always understand, or that someone will always support you is dangerous, not because people are bad, but because people are inconsistent. Human nature is subject to change. Moods, priorities, emotions, beliefs. What someone promises today, they may abandon tomorrow. If your stability depends on them, then your destiny is in their hands, not yours. And the moment your emotional health, your vision, your confidence, or your daily progress begins to rely on how someone else treats you or responds to you, you're handing them a power they were never meant to hold. When you fully embrace the truth that no one is your friend in the way you've imagined, meaning no one will do the work for you, no one will rescue you when you're down, no one will keep believing in your dream when even you stop, that's when you wake up. You snap out of the trance that society and conditioning put you in. You become alert. You become aware. You become dangerous, not to others, but to your limitations, to your excuses, to your dependency. You begin to develop a mental toughness that doesn't ask for support. It demands results. You stop looking for shoulders to cry on, and instead, you start building a spine that can carry the weight of your future. You stop complaining about who didn't show up for you and start showing up for yourself every single day, rain or shine. This is not about being cold. This is not about hating people. It's about understanding that your mission is yours alone. Your life path is yours alone. Your success, your failure, your growth. They're personal. No one else is obligated to carry your dream forward. If they help, it's a bonus. But if they don't, that's expected. The most successful people didn't get there because of an army of cheerleaders. They got there because they made peace with being misunderstood. They made peace with being isolated. They made peace with being judged, doubted, ignored. They didn't collapse under rejection. They converted it into fuel. They didn't wait for approval. They moved in silence and delivered results. Because once you realize no one is your friend in the way you believed, you no longer expect anything from outside. That's when real power begins to grow within. When you stop expecting people to understand your struggle, you gain energy. When you stop sharing your vision with those who lack vision, you preserve belief. When you stop chasing validation, you find purpose. All of this becomes possible the moment you detach from the illusion that someone is supposed to help you. No one is. No one has to. And strangely, when you stop looking for it, life starts to send you the right kind of people. Not because you need them, but because you're ready for them. The energy shifts from neediness to confidence, from desperation to magnetism. You will discover that the loneliness you feared is actually freedom. The silence you once avoided is actually clarity. You realize that no one is your friend not because everyone is your enemy, but because no one else was designed to walk your path. The path was tailor-made for your footsteps alone. Others may walk beside you for moments, even for miles, but they will never walk it for you. That's why your strength must come from inside. It must be trained, sharpened, reinforced daily. And that only happens when you stop waiting for someone to fix you, to notice you, to push you, and when people do turn on you, and they will, when they start doubting you, and they will, when they leave you in the dark, and they will, you won't flinch. You won't panic, because by then, you've become the kind of person who doesn't beg for light. You become the fire, you generate your own power, and that power never runs out because it's not borrowed, it's built. This shift rewires your mind, your focus, your entire future. You begin moving with purpose instead of confusion, with determination instead of dependency, with power instead of permission. You no longer fold when others withdraw. You no longer shrink when others attack. You no longer stall when no one is watching. You rise because rising is the only option left. You build because waiting is no longer a strategy. You fight forward because retreating means dying a slow spiritual death. You don't cry for help. You command results. You don't broadcast your pain. You process it in silence and turn it into gold. The old you, the one that needed constant encouragement, constant applause, constant agreement, that version fades, and in its place, a new force is born, one that isn't swayed by opinion, one that doesn't bend for approval, one that knows the mission is non-negotiable. That kind of inner transformation only happens when you finally stop expecting others to carry your load. When you stop believing that anyone else is responsible for your peace, your progress, or your power. When you stop chasing friendship and start chasing freedom. Negative feelings are not the enemy. They are messengers. They are indicators. They are signals trying to communicate something deeper that most people are too distracted or too afraid to face. We live in a world that teaches us to suppress pain, to avoid discomfort, to run away from anything that doesn't feel good. But what if the feelings you avoid are the very keys to the break through you need? What if your fear is pointing to the door you must open? What if your anger is showing you the boundary that's been violated? What if your sadness is inviting you to heal the wound you've ignored for years? The problem isn't that people have negative feelings. The problem is that they don't know how to listen to them. They misinterpret them as weakness. They think feeling anxious means they're broken. They think feeling down means they're failing. But emotions, even the dark ones, are not signs of weakness. They're signs of life. They are data, not definitions. And just like a fire alarm isn't the fire, but a warning that something must be addressed, your negative emotions are calling for attention, not avoidance. When you feel fear, it's often because you are standing at the edge of your comfort zone. It's your subconscious mind recognizing that the path ahead requires a version of you that hasn't fully emerged yet. It's not a sign to turn back, it's a signal to rise up. But instead of understanding this, most people freeze. They retreat. They tell themselves stories about why they can't do something, and in doing so, they let the emotion control them instead of using it to grow. Negative emotions only gain power when you resist them. What you resist doesn't disappear, it multiplies. It grows in the shadow of denial. Doubt is another misunderstood emotion. People see doubt as a roadblock, but doubt is really a test of belief. If you never doubt yourself, it means you're not trying anything beyond your current limits. Doubt means you're stretching, reaching, stepping into something unfamiliar, and rather than run from that, you need to learn to stand in it, to feel the doubt and move anyway. That's where self-trust is built, not in the absence of doubt, but in your ability to act despite it. Anger, too, is often demonized, but anger, when understood, is clarity. Anger tells you that something important to you is being threatened. It may be a dream, a value, your dignity, or your sense of justice. Instead of exploding outward or bottling it up, you can use that anger as fuel. Channel it. Let it clarify your standards, your limits, your non-negotiables. Use it to reset your energy and direct your will. Anger can be destructive, yes, but it can also be constructive when you're conscious of it. Every revolution, every transformation, every shift in history began with some level of anger that was alchemized into purpose. Even sadness, the emotion most people dread, is an invitation. It's a signal that something must be released. Maybe a chapter of your life has ended. Maybe you've outgrown a mindset, a relationship, an environment. Sadness is your soul's way of grieving the gap between who you are and who you were pretending to be. It's not weakness, it's honesty, and honesty always precedes elevation. When you let yourself feel the sadness, not wallow in it, but feel it with awareness, you allow healing to begin. You open space for clarity, for change, for truth to rise to the surface. The key to all of this is emotional intelligence, not in the academic sense, but in the lived sense, the ability to feel what you feel without becoming what you feel. The ability to observe your emotional state without letting it drive your life into chaos. You are not your emotions. You are the observer, the director, the navigator. Emotions are like weather. They come, they go. But your identity, your purpose, your focus, that must remain steady. When you understand that, you begin to take your power back from the storm. You stop blaming yourself for feeling low. You stop hating yourself for being scared. You stop avoiding your inner world, and instead, you begin mastering it. You treat every emotion like a message from your future self, asking you to look deeper, to grow wiser, to break free. This is where real transformation begins, not on the surface, but in the hidden corners of your emotional life. That's why ignoring negative emotions is so dangerous. They don't vanish. They embed themselves in your habits, your mindset, your identity. They shape your future in silence until one day you wake up living a life you don't recognize, wondering how you got there. But when you face them, when you sit with them, when you ask them what they want to teach you, they lose their poison. They become power, and that power becomes fuel, fuel to shift, fuel to break patterns, fuel to evolve into the version of you that no longer gets held hostage by temporary emotional states. This is how destinies change, not because someone else comes and saves you, not because circumstances magically improve, but because you learn to deal with what most people avoid. You learn to harness the very emotions that destroy others. You become emotionally unshakable, and emotional mastery, more than intelligence, talent, or education, is what separates those who lead from those who follow, those who rise from those who repeat, those who evolve from those who escape. Your environment is not just the physical space around you. It's everything you allow yourself to be influenced by. The conversations you entertain, the people you surround yourself with, the energy you absorb, the habits you witness daily, all of it shapes you more than you realize. What you tolerate becomes your standard, and when you keep allowing negativity, mediocrity, jealousy, laziness, or doubt into your space, you're silently agreeing to live at that level. You become what surrounds you. Not instantly, not dramatically, but slowly, subtly, consistently. It creeps into your mindset, it leaks into your decisions, and eventually, it shows up in your results. Many people struggle not because they lack potential, but because they live in environments that constantly drain them. They're surrounded by people who mock ambition, who fear risk, who laugh at dreams, who believe playing small is the smart thing to do, and so they begin to shrink, not because they want to, but because the energy around them is too heavy to rise above. They start second, guessing themselves, questioning their instincts, holding back their light just to make others comfortable. This is how destinies die quietly, not in one big moment, but in 1,000 small compromises made just to stay liked, accepted, or understood by people who were never meant to walk with them in the first place. You have to understand that not everyone around you is meant to grow with you. Some are meant to teach you, some are meant to test you, and some are meant to be left behind. And the longer you hold on to relationships, habits, or surroundings that no longer align with your vision, the longer you delay your own evolution. Growth demands space. Elevation requires clarity, and you can't access either if you're drowning in environments that feed your fears more than your faith. You don't rise by inspiration alone. You rise by subtraction. Removing what's not serving your purpose is just as powerful as adding what is. People don't realize how much energy they lose trying to explain themselves to the wrong crowd, trying to be understood by people who have no intention of evolving, trying to maintain friendships that have expired but feel familiar. That mental and emotional exhaustion steals from your creativity. It steals from your peace. It steals from your future. And the only way to get it back is to get honest. Honest about what you've been tolerating. Honest about who you've been trying to impress. Honest about the environments you've normalized that are slowly eroding your potential. You were not born to play small. But if you stay around small thinking long enough, it will shrink your vision without you even noticing. The jokes they make, the comments they drop, the energy they carry, all of it sends messages to your subconscious. It tells you what's possible, what's safe, what's realistic. And if you're not vigilant, you'll begin to believe that their limits are your limits. You'll begin to act out a life that matches their expectations instead of your purpose. That's why awareness is everything. You have to become hyper, aware of how you feel after every interaction. Do you feel inspired, challenged, expanded? Or do you feel drained, doubted, dismissed? You don't have to hate people to walk away. You don't have to fight with them to choose yourself. Sometimes growth is silent. It's choosing to spend less time in places where your spirit shrinks. It's declining invitations that no longer align with your energy. It's distancing yourself from conversations that revolve around gossip, fear, blame, or bitterness. Your environment is not something you escape into. It's something you build, brick by brick, choice by choice. You decide what stays and what goes. You decide what energy is allowed in your mental space, and you must protect that space like your life depends on it, because it does. Every major breakthrough starts with a shift in environment. Not just physically, but mentally and emotionally. It's the moment you decide that peace is more important than popularity, that focus is more important than being included, that vision is more important than validation. You begin to live differently when you stop waiting for people to understand your journey. You begin to rise when you stop shrinking to fit into rooms that don't recognize your worth. The environments you choose to entertain become the mirror of your internal belief system. And if your environment is full of scarcity, fear, and self-doubt, it's only reflecting what you're still entertaining within. But the moment you start raising your standards, when you demand more from yourself, when you start seeking out voices that challenge you, spaces that grow you, people that inspire you, your environment begins to shift. And with it, your results shift too, because new environments create new thoughts. New thoughts spark new emotions drive new actions, and new actions change everything. So if you ever feel stuck, uninspired, confused, or off track, don't just look inside, look around. Look at what you've been allowing into your world. Look at the conversations that dominate your day. Look at who has access to your energy. That awareness alone can be the catalyst that sets you free. Destiny is not some far-off, grand moment waiting to happen. It's not a result of luck, coincidence, or some external force deciding your fate. Destiny is crafted daily through the invisible, consistent, and often overlooked decisions you make moment to moment. It's not about where you want to be 5 years from now. It's about who you are being right now, in this moment, in your habits, in your thoughts, in your reactions, in your focus. The biggest illusion most people fall into is thinking that their life will magically change someday, that one event, one person, one opportunity will come and alter everything. But that's not how transformation happens. That's not how success is created. That's not how purpose is lived. What you do daily is shaping what you'll have eventually, and the dangerous part is that it's easy not to notice. It's easy to let one excuse slide. One more day of procrastination, one more hour of distraction, one more negative thought left unchecked, one more day wasted waiting for motivation to appear. What you repeat becomes your routine, and your routine becomes your reality. And that reality becomes the blueprint for your future. You can't live in anxiety, indecision, and doubt every day and expect confidence to show up when the stakes are high. You can't feed yourself negativity and expect your mind to generate solutions. You can't spend your time running from discomfort and expect to walk into greatness. The way you handle the smallest challenges is preparing you, or preventing you, from handling the biggest ones. People talk about chasing their destiny like it's a target in the distance, but destiny isn't ahead of you. It's beneath you. It's buried in your daily discipline. It's hidden in the way you talk to yourself when no one's listening. It's in the way you respond when things go wrong, when no one applauds, when no one supports you, when everything feels hard. Destiny is not some glamorous finish line. It's the byproduct of thousands of unglamorous moments stacked with consistency, clarity, and courage. And if you don't manage your inner world, your external world will always remain chaotic. That's why negative feelings, if left unchecked, begin to steal your destiny in disguise. Every time you let fear dictate your decision, you shrink your future. Every time you let laziness win over responsibility, you delay your breakthrough. Every time you let anger control your response, you sabotage relationships and opportunities. Every time you allow doubt to override your vision, you disconnect from your power. Negative emotions are not random. They're rooted in your inner dialogue, and if you keep living the same emotional script every day, you end up becoming a character in a life you never intended to create. This is why emotional awareness is not optional. It's essential. Because if you don't catch the thoughts that lead to feelings, and the feelings that lead to habits, and the habits that lead to results, you'll wake up living someone else's story. The idea that change takes time is true, but it also takes intention. Time alone does nothing. Time is neutral. It either compounds your excuses or compounds your discipline. What you choose to do in those windows of time determines whether you're building or breaking, whether you're evolving or repeating, whether you're aligning with your purpose or wandering further from it. Most people think they're stuck because they lack opportunity, when in truth they're stuck because they repeat the same cycles of thinking every single day. The same complaints, the same distractions, the same reactions, the same fears, and yet they expect different results. That contradiction becomes the silent killer of potential. To change your destiny, you must change your patterns. Not once, not when it's convenient, but every single day. You must rewire the way you speak, the way you think, the way you show up even when no one's watching. You must hold yourself accountable to the vision you claim to want, especially when emotions try to pull you in the opposite direction. The feelings of doubt, laziness, fear, or apathy aren't going away, but your relationship with them must change. Instead of obeying them, you confront them. You use them as a mirror, a compass, a challenge. You let them trigger action, not avoidance. This is where most people separate themselves. Those who achieve something extraordinary are not emotionless. They just don't let emotions decide their future. They feel the same doubt, but still take action. They feel the same fear, but step forward anyway. They feel tired, but choose discipline over convenience. That is the silent battle that defines your destiny, not the public victories, but the private decisions that no one sees. It's easy to post your goals, to talk about success, to plan the life you want. But what defines you is not your intention. It's your execution. Destiny is not determined by what you want. It's shaped by what you're willing to endure, commit to, and focus on consistently without needing immediate results. And this is the truth that most people don't want to hear. Destiny is not something you wait for. It's something you create through radical self-awareness, emotional discipline, and relentless alignment with your purpose. The hardest part isn't getting there, it's becoming the person who belongs there. Because if you don't become that person now, your future will reject you later. Every small moment is a choice, to feed the old story or build the new one, to stay the same or grow, to delay or decide. And in that decision over and over again, destiny is rewritten. Silence is one of the most underestimated forms of strength. In a world obsessed with sharing, proving, announcing, and showcasing, silence has become misunderstood as weakness or passivity. But in truth, silence is discipline. Silence is strategy. Silence is power in its purest form. When you keep your goals, your pain, your process, and your moves to yourself, you take control of the energy around you. You stop giving people the opportunity to interfere with your thoughts. You stop inviting unnecessary opinions, projections, and doubts into a process that's still under construction. And that's exactly where most people go wrong. They expose too much too soon, and in doing so, they dilute their momentum and sabotage their own path. Not everyone clapping for you is cheering for you. Not everyone who listens is listening to understand. Some are gathering data. Some are measuring your vulnerabilities. Some are silently competing with you. And when you speak too freely, when you expose your entire journey before it's fortified, you open doors that should remain closed. Not because you're afraid, but because you're aware. Awareness teaches you to protect your vision like a seed. You don't plant it and dig it up every day to show the world. It needs silence, darkness, and consistency before it breaks the surface. Talking about your goals doesn't make them more real. Execution does. Results do. People often seek validation through words. They want to be seen trying. They want to be acknowledged for the effort, even if the outcome hasn't arrived. But that hunger for validation is a trap, because when you become addicted to the applause, you become enslaved to the audience. You begin shaping your journey to be admired, not to be authentic. You begin chasing what's impressive, not what's meaningful. You stop building from the inside and start performing for the outside. That's how your purpose gets hijacked, silently, subtly, over time. There's a reason the most powerful moves in life are made in silence. Because when you move in silence, you bypass resistance. You skip the noise. You ignore the pressure. You create a space where your energy isn't being tugged by 100 external voices. You protect your focus. You guard your energy. You nurture the idea until it's ready to speak for itself. That's the secret. Let your results be louder than your explanations. Let your transformation make the announcement. Let your growth be the message. People can argue with your words, but they can't argue with your reality. When you start living in silence, you start seeing people more clearly too. You begin to notice who gets uncomfortable when you don't overshare. You begin to feel who only stuck around for access, not alignment. You begin to sense who supported your struggle, but won't support your success. And you wouldn't know any of that if you kept talking. Talking clouds judgment. Silence reveals truth. The quieter you become, the more people show you their real selves. Their motives, their energy, their intentions. All become visible in your absence of explanation. This is especially true when you're going through pain, hardship, or transformation. Most people rush to explain their struggle to others, thinking it will lighten the burden, but not every listener is a healer. Not every ear deserves your truth. Some people only listen so they can later use your pain as a weapon. Some will use your vulnerability to elevate their own sense of power. Some will smile to your face and mock you in silence. That's the reality, and it's not bitterness. It's wisdom. You don't owe anyone your process. You don't owe anyone your battles. You don't have to explain the storm while you're still inside it. Real strength is built in silence. It's when you cry behind closed doors but still show up the next day. It's when you keep grinding even though no one sees it. It's when you believe in yourself even though no one claps. It's when you stay focused even when distractions call louder than discipline. That kind of strength doesn't need to speak. It just is. And when your results start showing, they speak with an authority your words never could. You must learn to discern who deserves access to your process. Who has earned the right to hear your thoughts? Who has proven they can handle your truth without turning it into gossip? Your life is not a public experiment. It's a sacred journey, and sacred things lose their power when exposed too early. Keep your inner world sacred. Share only with those who match your energy, who multiply your vision, who protect your spirit when you're low and celebrate you when you rise. Because the same people who cheer your struggle may not cheer your success. And if you've built your identity on their approval, you'll feel lost without it. Silence is not absence. It's presence at the deepest level. It's listening to yourself before the world gets a say. It's choosing to align with your purpose before you broadcast it. It's giving yourself the space to grow without interruption, judgment, or noise. You become unstoppable when you stop explaining. You become powerful when you move without announcement. You become free when you let go of the need to be understood. Some of the greatest battles you will ever win are the ones no one will ever hear about. Some of the most powerful decisions you'll ever make will be made in silence, behind closed doors, in moments no one claps for. But those are the moments that shape you, the moments that fortify you, the moments that prepare you to handle everything you've been asking for.